everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 12/21/24, the solstice. So we're here with our friend April Cologne today, and she's going to be talking about her grandfather's history, some with Antarctica and other history that she knows in her family history. So before we go into this, we now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. So, Joanna, the law of one?
Yeah, and let me say before that, April has been communicating with us for many,
Yes.
many, many years. And again, interesting stories of how, let's just say, feelings that things were happening or whatever, and then working with Chris, again, on bringing out some very interesting stories. Again, sometimes with our lineages and our parents and our grandparents, there may be things that kind of were not spoken, you know what I mean? And then now they've passed, and, certain curiosities and certain things about certain circumstances come about and can bring around some very, very interesting stories. And again, that's what we're going to share today. So with that, and again, as Chris said, we open the circle. I would like to bless it now. We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We would also ask now for benevolence to please come and join us now with no conflicting agenda. Be that in guides, past family members, galactics that are out there, elementals that are out there, anyone who wishes to join along and to support this conversation in benevolence. We also ask for malevolent beings or those that are just too mischievous to be swept away now in order for this conversation to be had in peace. And if always, we hope you get something out of it, find it interesting, something to think about, and we always send great blessings your way. And so with that, we say, so be it.
So be it. All right. April, I know, yeah, you've been our friend for many years now. You've told me a lot about your grandfather. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and his trip to Antarctica, which I found very fascinating. So actually, why don't you just start from the beginning, your story, and then go into his story a little bit.
Okay, well, what he actually did, he was in the Air Force for, I don't know how many years it was, but I think he got out, I believe my mom said it was in 1967. And he went down there, I believe, the same year that he got out of the Air Force. Somebody called him, I don't know who, had something to do with the government. They called him to come down to do at the South Pole to do his research because he was a meteorologist and he was supposed to do weather related stuff, I'm assuming, because he used to teach it as well. So he went down there, and I don't know what happened because, of course, he never told me. But as I got older and, grew up, in about 2004, I'm assuming it was around that time, I started just wondering about it. He was popping in my head because he died. He didn't die, though, until 2012. So that was many years later he died.
Mhm.
But I started wondering about conspiracies and alien stuff and everything else that could go along with that stuff in Antarctica. And I couldn't find anything, just tidbits here and there. And that was back in 2004. Now there's a lot more information out there. But he never did talk to me about it. And I've always wondered. And of course, with you through sessions and stuff, little bits of information has come out. And I'd just like to find out more because I know there's a story there, and you said that at one point he was let into Antarctica, or not Antarctica, South, Agartha, I'm sorry.
Mhm. Yes, I do. I do remember that him coming through. What can you give the audience his full name?
Yes, his name was Charles S. Dzura, Dziura. There is a place in Antarctica right now. It's called Dzura. I think it's Nuna or Nanatok. Nanatok. I'm not for sure how to pronounce that, but it's a place they named after the scientists that went down there. I think it was just that year, and they named an area after him. For I guess I don't know exactly what for, but they said it was for the research that he done. Now, what
Hmm.
all that was, I don't know.
I know in the project sometimes you'll see a little thing that surfaces where they'll name something in a project after somebody, but then on the surface, the way they've honored somebody is they'll say it's for something else, but you'll see the name displayed somewhere. I've seen that happen before.
Yeah,
They even showed that in the show Stargate SG-1, where they showed little bits of how they did that in it as well.
yeah,
When they named things and where they got cures for things and things like that from other worlds and everything. But with this, yeah, I thought this morning. This is more than probably going to be more of a Q and A than an interview, by the way.
Yeah,
So
however it
yeah,
needs to
so and
be.
to the audience, that's I know you're used to a bigger backstory there, but this is more the backstory of now Charles Zura. So from his point of view, and I know this morning, there's been an inordinate amount of interference leading up to the show, like usual. I mean, it's nothing new for my part, but this was slightly more mentally intensive. This is more focused. And I know in Antarctica, that's mainly New Schwabenlander territory. And I'll recap what I mean by that. That's where you've heard of Admiral Byrd in Operation High Jump. I'm talking to the audience, where the New Schwabenlander Germans kicked them out of Antarctica with the Bellcraft technology, and Admiral Byrd, we found out that who he was actually talking to was them. He didn't talk to an Agarthan clan. We came to find that out from the Forest people. So with this, hmm, okay, I. Okay, I hear. I thought I heard a man speaking to me this morning above like all the other like noise. So
hmm
it's like let's see. I will say that the V2K and other things will try to block your receptivity to spirit. That's one of the main goals. So
hmm
amongst all the noise. So troop and electron to zero only, please. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, there's like a bunch of people that go under that last name that I'm seeing. So it's like, okay, yeah, yeah, well, yeah, of course. There's a few of you named Charles from a while ago, but I mean the guy closer to now, actually. Uh, so, uh, hmm, okay. Yeah, this is okay. The one that part of Antarctica was named after you. Let me see. Uh, You were hard to see, actually, but all right. That's all right. I know you said he has a journal too that supposedly.
Yeah, he has a diary, and my grandmother has it. She's like 92, and she's in like a rest home. But she has it, and I know she's not. I can't just say, "Can I read it?" Because I don't think she's going to mail it to me. I'm going to have to get it after she passes from one of the other family members.
Hmm.
Because I'm hoping to see if I read that, I think I can figure something out, or I'll just like get a hint of something. I just know it. I
No.
just know something's in there.
Okay. Yes, Isaac. I know there's lots of things written in there. Shush. Okay. Let me see. Um,
Word.
then there are a lot of words. Yes, I just heard him say. Oh, for crying out loud. He goes, "Yeah. What? A pen put to paper. You write word."
Yeah.
Let's see. Now you can bring him forward. Okay. Let me see. Okay, there you are. I believe this is you. You're hard to see, and you're. Can you clear that up, please? Hmm. Oh, wait, let me see the spot where you're coming through in spirit. What this looks like, please. So then I'll be more comfortable here. Hmm. Okay, he's in a wooded area in spirit.
Okay.
So, yeah, the real guy. So
Okay.
and he's acting like he's like having gone fishing or doing something,
hmm
or like camping or going on an outing or something. Whew. Okay, that's you. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah, he's spirit, so yeah, he's not like incarnated anywhere or anything. This is like,
Okay. So he's not living in a. Is he living in Agartha? No?
No,
Okay.
no. He's spirit. He's actually passed, it looks like. Um, I think he lived longer than or did not lived longer. That's the wrong choice of words. There's like this bubble of that he didn't talk about. Okay, I guess you want to actually say it. Okay, all right. Dang. Okay, Charles, can you clear up some of the fog, please, as you're coming in, please? Also, an inordinate amount of mental fog this morning, so it's like
Yeah.
it's strong. So Spirit usually can clean that up pretty easily. So
Okay.
there we go. There we go. All right, Charles, if you could. Can I? Oh yeah, he's younger looking. He looks like he's in his 30s. So,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. Hmm? Did you want to say something before we do this? Okay, you're a smartass on top of that. Yes, I will be saying something that, okay. All right. Yeah, I think you're doing that because that's my sense of humor. Okay. All right. Okay, Charles. True benevolent Charles deserve only. From this century. I know there's at least 3 or 4 other of you that have the name Charles. So, okay.
Gosh.
So, I mean, from a long time ago, I can see like medieval and some Renaissance type, look and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and Celtic tribesmen, things of that nature. Like, there's a group here, a group, and no negative ancestry as well. If you're going to actually disrupt, you cannot, or ruling in any way, shape, or form, you cannot. Thank you, Charles. Yeah, through the crystal, please. Mm-hmm. Yes. When I was in a human like form or human form as an avatar, yes, that was my name. As where I am currently, this is the oversoul that you are speaking to, of Charles Desura. Within that form, yes, at my time in Antarctica, originally I thought would be of a weatherman, very much like Charles J. Hall did for his tall white excursion in Nevada. You say. So, uh, this is basically what I went through. I came to discover when they're assigning you a weather post, it is either A, they're attempting to see how you would react to an external source that they are bringing to you, or B, they want you to enter into some program via one of the lower um, jobs or projects. But those are usually the inlets you see, weather or various other maintenance type projects or security or something of that nature. They sometimes will recruit people that way if they have a certain aptitude. He would say they showed this on the Stargate program where they recruited a lower ensign in the Air Force because she had a particular puzzle solving aptitude, that kind of thing, or those that play video games and solve puzzles like in your Stargate universe. Very similar type of dynamic. The only reason I know more than what I did and sound slightly different is because of the spirit connotation versus just the human facet. When I went down to Antarctica for weather, he had a friend of his that did the same and got entered into the same programs and had a more negative outlook on life afterwards when he returned and would not speak to him about anything from his own personal life. It's a very similar dynamic with myself. I had to keep things to myself relatively, except writing things down. You'll find that the journal is in fact inclusive of some of these things. But what I saw was this. In Antarctica, of course, you have a hole that goes down into the Agarthan area, or what was once part of Atlantis. There's a lot of alien technology and structures still present there. Now, are there as many Garthan tribes as certain channelers think? No, he knows the forest people came to him in this respect. I've actually been watching this for quite a while since at least the forest people mentioned at least you, April, and myself in their conversation. Then
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
been listening since that particular time, anxiously awaiting coming through. Uh,
Yeah.
so, this, when I went into that area, people think it's just a straight drop down in. No, sometimes there are structures and stairs that go in, but there's also a sinkhole from a structure that used to be there as well, that's sunk down into the fabric of the land further down. And some of that has collapsed in on itself. The some of the people below, when how after that started to rebuild something, then parts of it were abandoned. Then some species stayed after a while. Then you had your New Schwabenlander and Nazi contingent to take a lot of that over, but they had help obtaining that particular land mass, of course, from your Draconian and Orion sources during World War II. Um, and when Admiral Byrd went to go look, he was actually ordered to say that he saw something greater than what was there. Uh, by the time he showed up and looked, it wasn't the whole master he spoke to. This was actually a New Schwabenlander contingent that was there. This is why he actually saw swastikas while he was down there. Not unlike one of the groups that was there previously in antiquity as well. Several groups actually tried to occupy that land in antiquity long after Atlantis. Then the people came and went and built all their structures within or tried to access the old technologies. Some thought it was magic, some went on a magical quest kind of thing. Others stayed, set up shop, and died there after a while. Some couldn't handle the weather, what it became, the flash freezing after a while. This is a result of the you would say the Atlantean Lemurian conflicts. The reason, again, I know this is my soul was actually in those time. You see, I'm speaking to you as the library. This what I met down there. I went into some of these old caverns, and yes, there are other beings other than German down there, but they actually did show me the interworkings of how they how can I put this? How they mind controlled people in the world from that particular outpost. Many people think it is just Mars doing this. It is, but there are certain weaponry that are there within the ice and snow. There are also other beings that are helping them terraform the space as well. Beings that want access to some of the ancient technology underneath, but have lost some of the capability to obtain it over a period of time, such as like the times of the Great Flood that caused a lot of this damage, and the flood that came after it, and the mud flood that subsequently came after it, and showing the downgrade in capability over a period of time of the enemy forces. But this is the reason I kept things so secret. It affected our family line quite heavily. It affected all the way down to yourself and the experiences subsequently that took taken place since and before. They, along with from alien to military to SSP, all of these things. These were, I neglect to say, contract. Some of these contracts that were signed entering the Air Force and entering into these programs. What you think you're going in for generally is not what you end up doing. If people have a vision in their head going in, they might as well scrap that
Hmm.
and just deal with what is coming down the pike, or how can I put this, with the what experience, what may come, essentially. So there is some interference. This is why I'm having trouble, even though he's protected and all. There's still some leaning on this because of the subject of Antarctica. So I will just go into question answer.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a few questions I'm really curious about. Let me see here. Okay, you've already answered those. Let's see. Does your experience there, like when you were, who let you in, first of all? Who let you in to Agartha? Did the bad ones or did the good ones?
This is actually a mix of the two. This is more like the military led me to this particular point, and it was actually New Schwabenlander and some ET forces underneath that let us in. And so you could say New Schwabenlander, their actions are pretty despicable. So I would say evil, but at the other, this is what drove me to drink in some cases. But
Yeah.
no, well, I should say not in some cases. His own grandfather experienced several things that were of the same gradient. Uh,
Wow, I didn't know that. His
yes,
grandfather? Okay, wow. I don't know anything about him. I don't
Mm.
even know his name, I don't think.
Yes, I did not know the man, but I know by his own memory
Okay.
that it is of a very similar memory or experience gradient to my
So
own.
that's where the lineage thing comes in with that.
Yes, even though that was a marriage that brought him in, that's still integrated into the whole family. It doesn't matter whether they're married in or whether they are part of the genetic lineage. They are seen as the same. And so at
Right.
a particular point in time. So yes, you could say it was the bad ones that let me in. I was surprised at that point in time to actually see Germans there. And
Yeah.
this was something that was actually quite shocking to myself to understand that the United States didn't actually win the Second World War. This
Yeah.
was quite shocking to myself, and finding how much power they'd actually gained in operations like Paperclip and other programs that they had participated in. The V2 rocket thing was only a portion of this. The other was your binary network, as you call it, as well.
Hmm.
Other areas of people like myself, like your grandfather, were also in this. I see this from his memory set as well. So it has to do with lineages for the most part, married or otherwise. But these particular beings, I would say, commit acts of evil and atrocities across the planet. So I would say dark.
Okay. So you knew the entire time you were alive here as my grandfather, you knew the whole time everything you done, or did you have any memory loss of it?
I did have most of the memories. In
Uh-huh.
fact, there were some things that were taken from me. I could see now from the oversoul perspective, or from this perspective. Of course, there were other
Hmm.
things that were taken from me, but I did notice that we have the propensity to remember, regardless what was pushed into the subconscious. It is
Hmm.
really a suppression that is taking place, not a wiping. The wiping has a propensity to kill people.
Right.
So they do not want this. They want obedient workers. They don't want death, surprisingly enough, unless it's a
Hmm.
genome they don't favor. Hence why what happened in World War II happened. So with the camps and Jews, the whole bit. That's more of a culling type of situation there. But in this case, most of what I experienced, I remembered, and what I was only getting bits and pieces of, I wrote down as you would say more of a dream or an idea, or
Uh-huh.
having an idea, and then I started to get it back. But in that respect,
Hmm.
it was actually a little of both.
Can I
Okay.
can I ask a quick question?
Hmm.
So I think to adapt to this, and something I haven't heard yet, you may have spoken it at another time,
Hmm.
is your either the genetic component or the skill set that you brought.
Both.
What was it more specifically as to why they even brought you there? What was it of you they wanted?
Genetic component
Exactly.
with the genetic component and the familial ties to the New Schwabenlander Nazi. You see, they favor genetic frequency above all else. You've experienced this in your own respects, in your own personal, I will not bring up, that's in his memory, where they judge compatibility based on genetic frequencies and frequency tones. In that way, if you're not Aryan, they tend to kind of scoff a little bit, or something close. In this case, it was something close from the Atlantean period, the Celtic, that's where the red hair comes from, and blonde haired, blue eyed, they favor these particular traits. Oh, I know this is not part of the conversation. Your grandfather Hubert sends his regards.
Yeah.
He's in the picture as well. So round actually. He actually barged his way into the setting. So not to speak that is, and his grandfather Robert as well. So because they were mentioned. Or they wanted mentioned, I suppose. But in this particular way, it is the genetic frequency and the knowledge skill set. Again, they try to recruit for the knowledge skill set, but if they happen to have a particular frequency that they can mold, manipulate, or use in some fashion or form that they think could favor, just like they say the Empire in Star Wars, where they try to break somebody down to join the dark side of the force kind of thing. It's a lot like that, where they want to strip somebody of a particular heart space or a compassionate type of thing. They want an obedient worker in some respects, but for other projects that they want people more involved in, they want the skill set and they want a genetic compatibility. If they get somebody that's a mix, that's usually more of a lower slave in this respect. That's how they view most of the people on the planet, actually. But then you have others that have a particular, what they think is a particular compatibility with their own either ideology, which is even rarer, or at least a match for at least running equipment. Like, say, if they find alien equipment, for instance, it's like in your Stargate program where they had the ancient genes. People had certain ancient genes, and that was a key coding to run the Atlantean and ancient technology. That's actually a true statement from that show. Certain lineages were locked into the equipment and to be able to run it. The supposed master race thought they had all of this, but they did not. And it was locked into other races, other family lineages, other offshoots and branches. So retrieving some of this was quite arduous for them. But to answer sum this up, it was more like a summoning. I had joined of course, the Air Force, but it was more of a summoning to where uh, they assigned me there essentially, and then introduced me to the rest of it as time
Hmm.
passed. At first, it was like with Charles J. Hall. The tall whites at the time wanted him. They selected him to be able to speak to, you see, with him, and he was in a weather posting too in Nevada
Hmm.
around Nellis. So it's a similar thing. It always starts out with one of those posts, and they gradually will introduce you to something. You see something, you start to report it. They also want to test to see how loyal you are to reporting something or not reporting something. Tests like this, they start to perform. Then they introduce you to more of it.
So again, just to continue on with this thread, and to get again a little bit more detail, you had mentioned about, again, the other technologies that were there, old technologies, and it sounds like that they're needed. Part of being able to operate some of it
Mm-hmm.
was some sort of, you touch it, it feels your genetics or whatever is going on with the genetic side component of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like what they were doing is they themselves couldn't, so they were trying to slowly bring in different potential candidates that could actually be utilized that way.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there's a psychosocial component to it or whatever. If you're the right candidate, they want you to align with their,
Their ideology.
their ideology as being in servitude still to them to follow orders to do what you're being asked to do. They're certainly not looking for anybody that could rise above them. I'm sure of that.
No.
But so it was kind of a combination of that. You fit the bill. And, which opens up another interesting question, again, that people don't realize. I don't think amongst the populace, people don't realize how, in a broad stroke, people are scanned and, let's say, maybe even abducted to test to see, will you fit that bill?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think people realize what they may be put through in their lifetime or even starting as children, to look for those that could be potential candidates to introduce them down the road. That it's really, always, the proverbial needle in the haystack, always looking for the right you know what I mean, combinations and genetics and scanning people and bringing them in. So I'm assuming what I've just said is a part of the
Yes.
bigger picture dynamics to all of this.
Yes, and it may seem like it's random selection, but it is not. It's pre-planned. Family lines, family lineages. This is why people that have entered into the military in their past, in some armed force or other, that have also entered into these programs, their children and grandchildren are heavily scrutinized and looked after. This still goes on to this day. People think this is weakened. It has not. Uh,
No.
they're under the misguided conception that this has weakened, and like, oh, they're on the final ropes type of thing. That is actually a psyops, a New Schwabenlander psyops that is going on currently. That is a very deep set one that has been going on since the late 1980s. And then they went into the 90s with the New Age movement. And then you had the whole conspiracy theorist the type of psyops that went on to where they would basically shun people that would start to realize certain things, and that is still going on to this day as more of a slur or what have you. But this happened over many decades. These programs have been going on continuously since at least the new Schwabenlanders took Antarctica. That was roughly towards the end of the Second World War. That was in 44. They
Hmm.
took the New Schwabenland, and then when they allowed themselves to look like they died in 45, they began to then retreat to places like Argentina and Antarctica, and eventually Mars and Sirius in the system. But
Hmm.
until that time came to pass, they wanted to learn more about the tech. And in 47 is when you two spoke about the Roswell incident, where they were actually testing craft to be able to leave Earth, and they were trying to activate old portal technology that was shredding things along the landscape. They were shown how to create clones and servants, and they pretty much use them as test dummies, like they would, like say, Jewish people in experiments, things of that nature. They needed flesh people to operate the ships. And again, they were using genes. They were using genes that they were given by draconian forces, people of that nature. I use people lightly, that had more of the adaptability to run some of these vessels. Now, did some of the Aryan race have these traits? Yes, but not all of them did. People like Hitler and the rest of them wanted to weed them down to the best of the best, but first the supposed master race didn't understand that not all of them would have that particular trait just because they were German and just because they were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, some of them red, some of them brown hair, did not mean that they all had that fingerprint. So they had to constantly search for that and bring in that genetic frequency and breed it into their stock, you say. They wanted to culminate all of that. That was also what they don't want is like in your Stargate SG-1 program, where a man finds a piece of ancient technology at a garage sale and is actually able to operate it. And it was a telepathic stone that got the character of Jack O'Neill's or Colonel O'Neill's entire history, and he wrote it down as a script for television. That was actually a true bit of disclosure that was shown in that. Things have been found at sales, in swap meets, and in warehouses, and in storage facilities, and basements, and bedrooms, and houses. So this actually is a real thing. This is something the New Schwabenlanders do not want. They do not want people locating these things that they have not located yet and are able to use them. Just like in that program, that guy was made to seem like he was crazy around his family. I would have added to the story that it was somebody else making it look that way, but I digress. They didn't add that; they just made it circumstantial in that. But in this, it was not. They erased the fact that somebody would be creating those circumstances in that person's life. This, though, I will say, I did have the propensity to actually activate these particular machines, and you see again this. I go back to the Stargate universe, not just that program, but Atlantis and SG-1 depicted accurately. The programs depicted accurately. Bits of even my own life depicted accurately in that, and some of the programs I was introduced to. I wasn't introduced to all of them. Only the ones that had to do with Antarctica and had to do with the fact the Nazis did not lose the second.
Hmm. That's a lot. I mean, how did you, I don't see how, like, how did you live with this knowing you did it? That's why that's hard.
Mm.
That's really hard. I know that's why you drank, but besides, because you quit years later, you quit drinking years later. So how did you do it? You were a very quiet person. I just want to say that you're a very kind man, but you're very quiet. And is that why you were quiet? Because of how
Mhm.
you were dealing with it?
Yes, the way that this is dealt with, other than, of course, the negative connotation, which is alcoholism, but so did his grandfather as well. And I believe
Hmm.
your own. This is how it's dealt with in the negative side. And becoming a mean bastard is in the negative side. How you deal with it is finding that part of you that is not them, is
Right.
not that teaching, not that side, not any of that. You remember that, but you treat it as if it is over there. So, I mean, of course, it happened, but I'm not saying detach it, but you remain in the calm and view it like a viewmaster, basically, or a movie. You honor
Hmm.
the information because it's part of you, but you do not let what happened rule you. So
Right.
yes, drinking was part of that because there were, of course, you're in the human body and can only
Hmm.
cope with things for so long. There is no excuse for this. It is just how I was wired then, you say. So
Yeah.
now I see, and I did see as this part of myself then as well. Because see, the oversoul and spirit is always there. It's in the omniversal, super omniversal boundary. You see, it's right
Hmm.
in there. You have then the avatar then being looked at by the rest of you, the more knowledgeable of you, and trying to guide that avatar to whatever the goal is. He equates this to a helicopter pilot and a soldier on the ground communicating with each other. The soldier can go in the buildings room to room where the helicopter pilot has limited vision in that
Hmm.
particular way, but still has a greater insight on what is above and the layout of the building and the situation that they're reconning, you see. Then you have the one on the ground that is reconning the interior or the innards of the building. You have the oversoul surveying, I should say. This is how he equates that the oversoul avatar connection. Is so this is exactly what I was viewing. So with that, I would the greater self would then initiate a calm within the avatar. That is who you were essentially seeing when I was calm and mellow. Was the side that was the soul.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, did you know in any way that this would be coming out many years later? Was you ever told that by anybody?
No, no. Then
Okay.
it was complete secrecy and silence. You ran across an individual that said one time, a doctor that said if he had been talking about certain information, he would have been killed in the
Mm-hmm.
50s and
Mm-hmm.
60s.
Yeah.
It was the same identical way for myself. All of you here consider this the norm now to be more open with this.
Uh-huh.
It was not the norm then, not even close. This
Right.
more classified, stamped down, will throw you in the deepest, darkest hole if you say anything kind of thing.
And go after your
And
family.
go after your family, yes. And so, therefore, I did not say anything because of the safety for all family and future family involved. Even by the time that I passed away, I did not say anything because of you guys. So,
Mm-hmm.
believing full well, even though about towards the end, I knew some of it was out already.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of it. You've also encountered an elderly man that when you were conversing with him once, he was surprised that you knew certain things and certain aspects when you were nursing at one point, and he doing your nursing job, and he said he felt you thought he thought it was a safety issue. You were saying something. That is the mentality from my generation, that and his generation, that
Mm-hmm.
stay silent because they will do this. They become more lapsed a little bit because they are performing a narrative operation. So they are attempting to let they believe the genie's out of the bottle, they might as well direct it a particular direction. And this has been planned for some time. They can't do any fake alien invasions. They can't do anything of that nature. That's been scrapped. But
Yeah.
with this, they can at least guide the story to another means and ends because they knew people would fight this after all, seeing things in the skies and everything. So what
Mhm.
they decided to do was just direct the story after a while and control who people were introduced with. And that's not going to work either. I'm just saying that is what they planned. But as you say, the best laid plans of mice and men often gang agley. That is, or go awry. That is exactly them. So this is where I'm at.
And were there, did they just find you and start with you, or were there generations in the family prior to you that were involved?
Prior, the back even during the Second World War, and this actually goes back into your First World War as well, because some of the draconian forces were involved in the First World War as well. There wasn't as much spoken about in some of your UFO and disclosure circles. But in the Second World War is where they got slightly more active, and that's when other ET races tried to balance the scales coming in to try to quelch the violated treaties that some of the Orion, Draconian, and Darshan forces decided that they were going to, or Cassiopean forces decided they were going to breach. So the other GF forces had to come in, like the Mosen and a few others had to quell that for the United States and Great Britain. But at the same time, when things started to cool down, the in the end, the Nazis never really completely lost. Your country is not necessarily, the United States is not necessarily overrun with Nazis. I want to point this out. You're an amalgam of the US type of mentality. You're an amalgam of other ET cultures, and there's some GF propaganda in there. What's going on in your political theater? I won't get you banned from YouTube by going into that. But then you have New Schwabenlander in there. Then you have them, the new Schwabenlanders, doing things as well. This is what he said was depicted in MacGyver that time with the pegboard and showing the Nazi lady basically pegged and had programmed people all over the United States, neighbors, cops, judges, everybody, politicians, all that. That happens to be true. That was slight propaganda in that MacGyver episode because of the fact that they were showing themselves as everywhere, claiming everything. That's a pipe dream. They don't have everybody. I want to point that out. They want people to co-create that. Just like they have genetic limitations with the technology, they have territorial limitations with other factions, or else you would be speaking German and have implants in your neck. So
Mhm.
there are others vying for the territory that actually know what the new Schwabenlanders are doing, and they're all kind of just basically waving the prick at each other, pretty much. So
Yeah.
it's basically what's going on. Or you said George Carlin would say prick waving dick fight. That's what they're doing. That's what you're seeing as a result of things happening in your news programs, things that can't be hidden, results of fights and stuff that cannot be hidden. That's what you're seeing, and plus all the propaganda and news garbage and political theater puppets on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have any more questions because I'm running out of ideas to ask you. You've been covering so much. I'm wondering if Joanna's got any other good ones that
Oh, yeah,
she'd like to.
I can always come up with some good questions. Because in general, I do want to, this really isn't a shifting of the subject, but it really is a curiosity of mine, and I would love to have your perspective on it. So in a lot of, let's just say, initial conversation about understanding that people and their genetics seem to play a role following the dynamics of, the, let's just say, the king line, the RH negative factor, all of these things that seem to have some components. But I wanted to broaden the conversation because I don't, my curiosity is my mental thing says different things are looked at for different programs and different needs. So like an
Yes.
RH factor line that's being looked at maybe being looked at for a different reason than, let's just say, someone whose bloodline is A positive, but they still have important components to them. So I was hoping to have a generalized conversation about things like
Yes,
that.
you've seen this like with your Tony Rodriguez material and all this other stuff where they try to choose you for a particular program based on ancestry and past lives too. They will see if you have a bunch of warrior past lives or ancestry, they'd make you a soldier. Healer, they'd make you a doctor. Aptitude for alchemy, a doctor or scientist or a computer technician, what have you, or simple worker. With him, they couldn't decide. With yourself, April, they couldn't decide. Like with your grandfather, they chose him for labor and a bit of science. He has been bugging me to talk here in a moment, but I will give him his time in a minute. But Hubert is quite antsy. But I will say this though: the like what he would say, the aliens taught these programs how to take genetic memory, the amino acids in the genetics, and turn them into ones and zeros to see on a screen. Therefore, they do a mean average review of both the genetics and the energy to see where they can place people. This placement then determines how they are put in the secret space program, if they are at all, and some that they don't know what to do with are either sex slaves or they're traded off somewhere to another slave somewhere else in the galaxy, or some other program as some menial like maintenance worker, or like a janitor with a mop closet type of scenario. It just depends. They see all people as potential servants to them. If they not see that or actualize that or make that happen, they used to just kill people outright that they couldn't control. That's that whole mentality of like what you saw on your Y files, that future they were showing where they were messing with the genetics, and if they couldn't control it, they killed it kind of thing. That's what they wanted, but that was just a pipe dream on their part. It has not gotten to that stage where some people believe it's been ultimate control everywhere. It's not that. You are hitting pockets of controlled areas. You're hitting pockets of controlled people. That not everyone is this way. There are areas of the earth. It may not seem that way because of all the stupidity going on, but the psionic dampening in orbit gets some of that as well. But there are pockets where this is less or greater. And also within the lineages, there are susceptibilities that are less or greater. The less the susceptible ones, they don't want to even have them out in the open at all. But they don't have much of a choice because it's a lot of different places. But the more susceptible ones, you see them a lot of places where they will just kind of aim at you, that you call it the Mr. Smith effect, or Agent Smith effect, where they're aimed at you all the time. That's the AI programming at work where they're throwing this at you. These are the people they deemed most controllable, so they would just keep them as a milling around in the general public. The ones that they want to keep closer to them are the slightly less controllable. They want to see if they can break them, or they like the genetics and they like the frequency. They're like, okay, we'll take our chances. They are actually less, what can I say? They are actually less capable than they let on. They are far less capable than they let on. Yes, they have power. It's on Mars. They have it on the Moon, Ceres, all this other stuff. But they want to overbloat their capability to the point where they want you to think they are unstoppable, that your genetics can't do it, your psychic ability can't do it, your capability of any kind can't do it, and that is incorrect. It doesn't matter how much power they've obtained. If everyone comes together, doesn't matter what ethnic group or background or anything, you just agree to disagree, and that actually defeats them. So you don't even have to love one another. That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Is you don't have to love the people around you. You just have to not belittle them, and you don't have to. You don't even have to like them. Just don't ridicule. Just don't belittle what they say or believe or anything like that. You just have to work around them briefly. You just have to not go after them or any of that, any of the stuff you're seeing. People are saying, oh, make fun of that person because of this, get back at this person because of the mask thing, or things of that nature. No, 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 no. They've created both sides of this fence, but they want you to believe they have absolute supremacy over this. No, this is where the propensity of the human genome, the human mind, heart, soul comes in and can override any of these measurements they've made, any of these programs they've made. This is from what I've seen. Mm.
Well, thank you. And in general, I guess I kind of feel my grandfather pushing as well. It's kind of funny. I'm actually a little bit surprised.
Yes.
I thought he was going to hold this more close to the chest and not
No.
talk. But
No.
I just want to please give you the floor to anything else that you wish to say that you want to bring forth now.
Yes, I actually will just hand the floor over to Hubert because he's kind of leaning quite heavily here. And I understand the urgency because this is why I wanted to speak. I wanted to give my perspective on things. I will give Hubert the floor here. So, Bob, you've already had your chance. So, all right.
Because that's how Paul Memo says hi.
So, no, I was just giving some crap. But we know each other in spirit. We didn't know each other in human form. Well, we met over there, all three of us. So, yes, Hubert, yes. Yes. Second. Sorry for the abruptness. Yes, my name is Hubert, or it was in human form. The last time I attempted communications, the two of you were not receptive to what, or were not informed enough as at that time to receive the information properly. I will say this. Some of the people in the programs, when they went into these programs, yes, did they start off just like people that go in the entertainment industry? They start off with one pipe dream in their head, as Charles said. But then they get further in, and they realize it is nothing like what they thought. Then they begin to have a Stockholm syndrome to it. They begin to allow things they never thought they would. Be around people they never thought they'd ever meet. Shake hands of Nazis. To the point where even you get out of a program like that, you are nowhere close to the same as when you came in. And being in a situation like that, you then do not see the world in the same viewpoints. Where like a soldier going into battle, they come home with PTSD. Yes, this is the same situation with myself. As a human, what was done in the past never left. I was fully conscious and aware of what was done and how it was done and who it was done to. Having even worked on projects with Werner von Braun, for God's sakes. That man, they credit him with NASA, they credit him with the V2 rocket, they credit him with all these accolades. This man was worse than Adolf Hitler. He saw people as nothing but servants. He is not in physical form in any respect in the programs. People think Hitler is bouncing around in the energies, and that's true enough. And Werner von Braun, I suppose, is as well. But not, people have this mythos out there that they are alive and they just body transferred and such. And I'm here to say no. But then, picture this in the 60s, the early 60s. what you call the mind controller, the binary network, was in its rudimentary planning stage, even a decade before that. It was actually being talked about by people in planning meetings and everything long before it was ever implemented. The aliens at the time showed the Germans how to build the perfect mind control apparatus, and it had to be a network spread throughout the planet. And it would use the planet's own bioelectric signature as well as people's own technology to enslave them to it and it then to them. It's like a hard drive in a computer that has a master and slave type of situation where then you can switch what drive is the master and what's the slave. This has a switch that would go back and forth. The computer at the time was rudimentary, you see, and it would have that master slave switch, just like in electrics. It would then see the bioelectric and the neurological components of a person as the slave mentality or the slave component by which then it linked to, if this makes sense. The Unisphere in the World's Fair. This is why you saw it in the Men in Black movie, it being toppled. Somebody was showing you this needed to be knocked over. This needed to be toppled. But that site doesn't matter anymore. That would matter anymore. That was the original activation site. It's through your 5G at the moment. Then all they did was throw a switch. And this was like your basic Gwyn Tower technology is now. It makes people stupid. It's psionically dampening. They can do this from satellites. And again, I'm not saying the thing is hopeless, but in the time that I even helped put pen to paper, I did not know what to do to even get out of a situation like that. I did not want it. I did not ask for it. I was more like summoned for my skill set and for my some of my mathematical capabilities in this, engineering capability. And also having been soldier and all that as well. But it was mainly the aptitude of putting things together. And others have done this too, where they've gone into, they think good components of the programs. I have to disagree with that. There are other better areas that aren't as oppressive, but it doesn't mean that it was good. Anybody summons you or takes you, no, that is not good. They were actually trying the mind control technology on soldiers to see if they could get them to commit atrocities that they wouldn't have normally have agreed to. It was more your Manchurian Candidate type of situation. And they did for workers as well. Think of like the workers, say, working on the Death Star in Star Wars kind of scenario. Were they guilty or not kind of thing. This is a gray area, no pun intended. Whereas you had these situations, and I even worked on some of the very components to the mind control devices, and there are multiple ones, not just so that was the original activation point, the original switch. It's like getting your he's saying in your Star Wars series is your Andor, where they were working on different components, like different like plates for things on a slave colony, but they didn't really know what it was going to. And your companies are doing this. They're making bolts, chairs, panels that are made to measure for ships in the secret space program. You don't always know what things are going to. It's just like in the end they showed in Andor where it was part of the Death Star. That's actually, you don't know what things are going to. We knew after a while what this actually meant, knowing what the physics would do. Just like your Oppenheimer knew what the potential of his creation would rot. It was the very same type of situation with the binary network. And with that, once people knew what this would do, and they did it, they helped create it anyway, this turned them into something they originally were not. This turned some of them into monsters. And the other ones that were not struggled. This I know is a bit of a downer, but this is only a shade of what my human avatar went through at the time. Bob's was the same way, but these two particular programs, he can touch on this if he wants today. But if you have anything to say to me today,
Well, I mean, I think the same thing, with April and her family. It
mm,
coming, when you, and again, you did physically go away, you know what I mean? I hear this from my dad. And then, you were, it's almost like drugged back home by your own family. It sounded like it was
yes,
weird
because I could
stories.
not be near anyone for the fact that if they knew what was going on, what had happened, they would have been further dragged into the conflict. They would have been either written in or harmed. And I couldn't. With also my actions, I isolated myself because I didn't consider myself me any longer.
Right, which you really did. So, when we did not have, you nor I really, between us two, had much of a relationship. I kind of saw you as the figure in the workshop, right? And even
Isolationist is.
yes, when I was little, I didn't refer to him as a grandfather. He was just an uncle figure, right? Which is
Mhm.
kind of a natural thing. But I think, you know, what I am curious about, and it would be the same way for, the other folks, the other grandparents of us and things like that, is did you know at that time that other family members, even generational ones, you had already had children, your children had already had grandchildren. Did you know that they were, obviously you just said if I kind of let any of this out, they would really be scrutinized. But did you then know that they were being scrutinized anyway, the generations? Or was that something you were kind of hoping if you didn't talk wouldn't
That's
happen?
it right there. If I didn't say anything, and Charles is similar, and Bob is similar, that they wouldn't be scrutinized, but it happened anyway.
Right.
And obviously it happened anyway, because there was really nothing that could be done to stop that. It was more of a self-delusion at that particular point, especially later on in time when it was painfully obvious things were happening, with patterns I recognized.
Within the family
Yes,
members,
and within the
or
family member dynamics and
yes,
everything. Yes,
and the children and the grandchildren, because I think
yes.
for me, I go back to, some of the memories that are so bright to me. I was tiny, I was small, and definitely in elementary school, those dynamics of whatever was really going on had already begun. And, so I can see, because I feel the same way, having children and, and everything going, there's just instinctually knowing they've already been looked at. Oh my God, they may have already been something,
Ben R.
well, right. And so, but again, the difference is that I think I'm more aware of it, and your generation was having the pipe dream that was never true. It was always a lie that, the generations coming after could be spared.
They could be spared the horrors, just like with the horrors of war. The idea behind it is you do the deed so the future generations don't have to endure. But this is the biggest lie ever told, aside from religious concerns, also, because of the fact that it is a continuous thing that they constantly are bringing horror shows to the forefront as distractions, a way to demoralize and control and dominate people. So it is a lie saying this is done for future generations because we are fighting the good fight. No, none of it was good in that respect. Yes, good things happen, innovations happen, history happened, rolled on the way that it did. But if people knew how many things were going on in the background they didn't know about, wars, battles fought, Charles can attest to this, Bob can attest to this, having intimate closeness around Nazis and other Cold War forces like on Korean like Bob, but But with this, the point I'm making is, like with Hitler, he was probably one of the only reasons to ever go to war to get rid of somebody like him. But on the same note, think to the beginning of your Second World War. What got the United States into it? And Bob can attest to this, he was there. In Pearl Harbor, what was allowed? You see, what was allowed? It was the Japanese were allowed to get the United States into it, to get other people and other families into other aspects of the programs that they probably did not have access to previously, so that they were not spared some of this. That was one of the ultimate goals of that move. Not the whole freedom fighting thing you heard about. That's the sad part of this. Yes, it was good that some of those Nazi bastards were killed. Great. I fully support. But it was more of a means to create not only a for and against, and this was more Vietnam later on, but and resources, that's more Vietnam, but like with your Jim Morrison and his father at the Bay of Tompkins incident. But Pearl Harbor was a similar type of thing, but again, to allowed to strike. And then therefore, what came after to defeat them? Who brought through what? The nuclear bomb. What then did that brought after? That is literally the only technology that you have that people have regular access to on a regular basis that it even begins to contend with anything galactic. So that is on a almost even keel with anything galactic. So, and also keeps other dimensional areas at bay. They wanted an excuse to create these things and continue on their research so that the new Schwabenlander types could actually dominate the globe completely against other factions. And this is the truth of it. It had nothing to do with the regular people. They did not give a rat's ass about the regular people. They didn't know, they didn't care who they demoralized. They just wanted them for their skill set and their genetic susceptibility and or keeping your enemy close. That's pretty much it.
And again, I don't, as was said before, if this were the 1950s, this conversation would never
Not
be
even
had.
close, not even close.
Chris and I wouldn't be here anymore. A lot of people wouldn't be here anymore trying to talk about it because they literally did still massively kill, when I mean any kind of threat to any of this. However, I guess, not to leave people, I don't like to leave people on this pessimistic, it's inevitable.
No.
So I do like to talk about the fact that, from my understanding, and I'd like to know from your perspective, we keep saying, and I do believe as we expand as human beings and we expand in a way, changing frequencies that we're operating in, growing, things like that, that really a lot of these susceptibilities, they really can't do what they used to do when you were at a certain level. Do you find that from your perspective still a true statement?
Can you repeat that?
So, right now you talk about people vibrating at different frequencies and our goal is to learn and grow and expand. So we're expanding in frequencies, which means basically at a frequency that's normally faster moving. And some of these techniques, some of these technologies for domination control, some of these things like that don't operate on a certain frequency. So as we grow it and expand and reach certain frequencies, that these things really aren't affecting us as much. Is that a true statement?
Yes, you are correct. Your brains do have the ability to become more immune to that particular mind control. If it were shut off, if all of it went away right now, people would go through a withdrawal from it. Your brains would not be able to handle some of the ripping away of this. That is a true statement. They did that just in case somebody would become strong enough to defeat them. It's basically a dead man switch to where they were getting their culling like your Thanos character in Marvel, no matter what. Basically by destroying that source, like you see in the movie They Live, for instance. People, they know the propensity of people wanting to overthrow them. This is why a lot of this has to be done energetically, and also gaining an immunity over time. Because then, no matter if that is shut off or not, it won't matter. If you were to shut it all down, there's some people would have a swelling of the brain and even die from this, but then there will be others that their thoughts would be irreparably fucked up a little bit, but then there will be some that nothing happens to them. It's just like with your vaccines and things of that nature. And with COVID, it didn't affect, some it affected very, very drastically. Some it only did a little bit. It's the same with the binary network. It actually begins to interlock with the way people live. People adapt to it like a pressure chamber, like getting the bends. This is also, and I will say this, this is one of the things that people are calling ascension symptoms. This is one of the things doing this, is this acclimation process and the mind control. This is why when you put your devices near you, you start to feel weird, is because you're cutting off some of that. It's doing its job, just like the darker technologies, let's say, are doing its job. Arm wrestling, and you add V2K into the mix with it talking and the microwave handheld weapons and towers that are doing this, and then you have a trifecta from hell. I'm saying that the more people notice these things is when the day they begin to become more enriched knowledge-wise, but then energy starts to turn, because it's one of those two or more walk in my name type of scenarios where they begin to change. Like he says, the Washington Mall, when people meditated, it dropped the world crime by 20%. That kind of effect. Doesn't matter how powerful anybody with a weapon is, they cannot fight that. This is why you say waking up. I say yes, but it is, again, coming to a realization. I suppose it's awakening, but it's not a mass awakening. It's like with any getting immune to any toxin, like say a poison you come across. Wouldn't that have to be made immune over a period of time, or you gain a tolerance to it? Like you're seen from your Princess Bride, where he says he drank the iocane powder. It's that type of effect, where he drank the one that had poison in it, and they both had poison in it. The cups did. It's the same thing. You're drinking a cup of poison. Then you have not only the chemical, but you have the psionic. And yes, you are capable of becoming immune to both, but it is a slow process. Again, if you were to again shut that off, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, it then would cause what they wanted no matter what. A dead man switch. Again, like if a terrorist is holding a bomb, you kill them, they let their hand loose. They did this because they're evil, sick shits. But it doesn't mean that you are a slave to it. It does not mean you are screwed. It means that you are freer than they are. That is the upside.
Well, that's good. And then again, that creates a genetic memory that if you should come in again or pass to, I think it seems to me, you can tell me this, because we're kind of like the oversoul, but there's also a larger grouping of souls that seem to connect together a lot with the underling of the trees. That, when you have enough people going through that genetics, that memory that's created on how to deal with something passes somehow potentially to all of the others. So it allows, let's say, another soul to come in via yourself or someone else connected to you that way, that you come in a little bit better prepared. I guess that's the only way I can say it. You come in so that, oftentimes, people, are concerned because they feel the generations coming in are dumber. It's an interesting dynamic, I think, because I think they're coming in different, but they also have innately, in one sense, can be further ahead than what it took off.
In some senses,
right? In some senses, they're coming in already pre-made to deal with some of these problems that we had to face all of our lives.
So some of which that is true, but there are others that have taken a backslide too. You're seeing it in yins and yangs at the moment. It's not all 100% that way. It will be at one point, but you're seeing the yin and yang. Yes, the news gives off a bunch of propaganda. Like saying, look at all of this group, look how stupid they are on either side of the political fence. And you'll always see that until someone fixes this. But more people will have to take notice even above the dumbing, as you call it, and that is an apt nickname for it. Even if the other groups out there, the Galactics, don't care for that derogatory term, oh well, that's what it's doing. It's making more stupid people. This is why you're running into so many things, but at the same time, it's spread out. It's like it's not as prolific as what you were being shown. It's being filtered on through the television because they're showing you that look at all this stupidity and horror that's going on. But if people were to actually travel and go around, you're not going to find it as much. This I want to actually say. This is actually the silver lining here, where you're not going to see it as much if you go further out and you travel all the time, which again, some people can't afford to. But at the same time, if you were to travel and move about, you would actually see that they're just regular people seeing all these extremes of the yin and the yang happening around them too. I just wanted to make that point as well.
No, I appreciate that point because, again, some of the things that I've done in my life and have had an opportunity to travel, see people, talk to people, and things like that, I would completely agree with that statement that, the average folks, you would be surprised how much more in sync you are with them, and everyone's confused with all of this other, flying around them and what's really going on. So I agree. That's kind of been my experience too, again, because I don't want to leave people with any sort of Debbie Downer. I don't know what else to say. There is no reason. We started having these conversations years ago because we actually feel just the opposite. We do feel that, these conversations should be had. People need to see things and understand a bigger picture of what's going on so that they can make choices and put out, how they want things to be down the future. So I appreciate it. I have to say, I'm surprised I'm surprised you're here. In all honesty, there's not this great communication. We did not have a close life together. We did not. And, I had one time before you passed to go down there, and I wanted to see my grandmother, but I so didn't want to see you that I didn't go. And there was a moment after you had passed, and it has to do with my son, where I did go visit grandmother with my children, and my younger son there were two pictures there, from your memorial service. One was a younger version of you, one was an older version of you. And my younger son ran up to the younger version, not the older version, the younger version, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And was hugging the picture, and was kissing him, telling me, Mommy, that is my friend, Mommy. He was so excited to greet this picture. And it really was at that moment that some resolution truly came to me. So I'm grateful for that moment. I'm grateful that my son
He saw what I currently look like.
Right, and I'm assuming you had been, he had seen you coming in to say hello.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a while. It was after your death before, and again, something very innocent that came from my father that made me have to accept that this reality actually occurred. And, I was in denial even of my own personal remembrances and things that were coming back until something so innocent occurred that I couldn't, really deny it anymore. So I wish, it takes a while. I had a dream. We met in that dream. It was a moment of, a moment of acceptance. It was, I think I actually went to you and actually came there to just try and basically say, I'm okay if you're okay. We're okay. And you know what I mean? And I understand more. And with the knowledge of what has occurred, I certainly, to the whole generation, to your whole generation, and those that were involved in some of these projects. And again, the fact that it seemed like way more of you remembered. I think the rate of alcoholism was probably huge than due to
The,
people remembrances of these
the
projects.
technology wasn't as refined to be able to wipe memories. And wiping is actually not the apt term. It's more suppressing. And eventually, with certain minds, it some minds want to really balance and come back to themselves. They will fight tooth and nail to get to it. That's not preventable. So they tried to invent an actual mind wipe where he would call it like an engrammatic purge, like they do on Star Trek. But this one's more dangerous. There were a lot of fatalities for that particular one because they would erase engrams that would take away basic functions like breathing. They didn't know what they were doing. They were going off what other ETs and other people were showing them, and they were running experiments to see what worked and didn't work. That was the Nazi mentality, you see. It They eventually got success, but even today, the enchromatic purge thing is not really worth using. They still use the suppression technique because it's one they know. And aliens will use both, but they're not really allowed to use the enchromatic purge. It's even too dangerous for them to use. So they use the suppression technique, knowing full well within the right energies, it will come back. That's also a loophole around galactic politics, but I won't get into that part. But we'll say, do you have questions too?
No, I just had one other thing I was going to say about my grandpa. I was just going to say he was going to go down there, or they asked him to come back to Antarctica, and he said no.
Good,
That's
because
good.
at least they ask this time. They normally don't. They normally just drag you by your freaking ankles, practically, to do things. On some level, they do, like with your COVID situation, they need mass consent for things. In some levels, they do need the consent. Or
Mm,
they need parental consent, or they need an individual consent on some things. The thing they asked him for, they needed it, and it's good he said no. Uh,
good. Mm,
the, this is where I must detach from him. Bob wishes to say a couple words. Um, I'm also interrupting his sinuses here. Okay, I will detach now. So,
Thank you.
I will be as brief as I can because the situations I was in, Hubert was correct. We met on the other side. We didn't know each other in the human experience, but we went through similar things. Yes, he was right about Pearl Harbor. I didn't know this at the time. I was 17. Male person, male kid. Lied to get into the service, thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're all led to believe that it's for a higher purpose. No. I told Katrina and them, Punky, I called her as a child. She hates it. You can tell her that too. But I always called it Mickey Mouse bullshit because I did not realize the ramifications at the time of calling it mixed with Mickey Mouse. Disney is interwoven into that was interwoven into the Third Reich and also did deals and still does deals with the military. So that was I didn't know before, but then I called it Mickey Mouse shit bullshit because of the fact I'm starting to learn things that happen in the background. So uh, in this respect, I even told him a story about seeing somebody with reptilian eyes in a hangar. Uh, I only gave him part of the story at the time because he was more susceptible to, and they were more susceptible. Now I can say, having done a lot of these other projects going into the OSS, fighting in Korean and Cold War, uh, it's not it's not what people believe. It's not the heroics people believe. It is on the behest of whatever privatized project wants to get rid of their rival. And the Mickey Mouse bullshit involved is guarding the sacredness of the project by which that particular program is operating with or creating. And like with your grandfather, April,
Mhm.
he did not realize first what he was completely getting into, but now fully remembers, and also guarded you guys as a result. Hubert thought he was doing the same for you guys.
Mhm.
I thought I was doing the same for them.
Yeah.
And I did not wish him to remember these things because of the fact that I hate to say it doesn't really serve a purpose completely, other than, of course, becoming sovereign and changing the entities. But if you remember even a tenth of it, he remembers a bit more because he pushed it. But um, what does this bring? What does this co-create? What does this balance or imbalance in your life? Is the soul wanted in place to be able to accomplish an energetic goal or a physical goal? Yes, at times. But informing people, yes, also begins to change them around and to be able to ignite the fires of information. It also creates, it also ignites the butterfly effect around. But in all situations, is it necessary to be interlocked with that of the horrors? No. And I'm not saying you get over things like that. I sure didn't. I sure didn't. I became an alcoholic. Seeing the Nazis kill children, seeing the Nazis do horrible things to people. I won't go into repeating it because I don't want to uh, give that visual to your audience. But suffice it to say, a lot of them ceased to be human a long time ago. It's like he says in your Firefly when the Alliance creates these Reaver types, and they said, "Oh, it's men that forgot to be men." No, they were making reference to not only this, they were making reference to the project. Some people were made docile. They're the after effect were like zombies. That there was a symbol in there, meaning they were trying to get you to sleep, or they were going to zombify you, or they were going to just cover up the whole thing. There was a symbol in there. Anyway, in the movie Serenity, he was saying, but in our scenario, in my scenario, the reason that it drove me to that was because of the evils that we're seeing. Not just on regular battlefield, but what was done with the Mickey Mouse bullshit behind the scenes and behind the man behind the mask or the man behind the curtain, which still goes on. And yes, people are becoming more and more aware. But what are you become aware of? Is it a narrative or is it the actual thing? It's actually a mix of the both. And I knew some of these things were taking place. They started even the Lincoln Air Force Base. I knew when they closed it. They didn't close it. They went underground like moles. And I knew what they were doing then too, because they do things in the long game, in the long term. And from the beginning of even from the beginning of the 1980s to now, they've changed so much, and it's such a slow, gradual burn. Like your frog in boiling in the pot slowly won't jump out, but if you flip the switch, he jumps out, kind of thing. And they've changed so much that if you went back to the beginning of the 80s and now, like what he saw in the dream sequence, whereas the energy got horrendous from that time to this time, you will know that it would be like the frog boiling in the pot quickly. You would feel it and jump out. This, in this respect, what I'm trying to get at is letting this information out like this is the way to do it in slow bursts and in digestible nuggets. Some people will never care what happened because that's not their life. Some people will care immensely, and some people will think that they are brothers in arms. I would be not necessarily just cautious, but he calls it dancing around the maypole with some of these crowds that believe these and want this all out, and avoid the hero complex. Avoid thinking in the glorious and glory of whatever. from religion and that thy will be done crap to anything, really. Now, I can answer questions from both of you.
Do you have any?
Uh, no, I can't think of any right now. I don't know as much as you do about that area, but
Well,
no.
I have to tell you, I knew in general that we were going to be talking to April, not knowing that not knowing that what was really going to end up happening is that we were going to, for the first time, actually discuss the fact that it happened to all of us with all of our grandfathers and the similarities and different things that, that happened. I actually had no idea. So this whole conversation has turned, into something way more interesting because,
Mhm.
I appreciate the fact that, knowing that obviously my story is not the only one, your story is not the only one, and we really could say that this happened to plenty of people, and that was the one thing that maybe you can give perspective on because, when we talk about now and people talk about, again, the growing of the program. So now that we have fleets now, not just that we're here, but now out there and the fleets and everything is that I always tried to say, I don't think we can grasp our minds around the numbers of people involved in building of that even sort of infrastructure that is currently, you know what I mean, with the fleets and whatever. And again, all of it, even like with my grandfather, there had to be some sort of mind control, getting people to follow orders, doing all of those things. That infrastructure that he was a part of had to be built. You know what I mean? To get workers and people that were bringing in involuntarily, some came involuntarily to do all of
No,
these things.
no, they did not come involuntarily.
No one came involuntarily.
No, because they were summoned.
Okay.
They felt, and you know this as well, April, I will not go into details. They
Mhm.
were summoned and told outside themselves to do. And there are very few exceptions to this. Before the technology, there was magic, obviously, but which the technology and that have now merged. This is what is going on. You have a longing to serve, but at the same time, you go into for good reasons to actually help, to actually do good in this world, which there is good being done. I must say, in the warrior respect, there are good things being done, a lot of it. But even within a narrative, there's children being helped, there's people, families being helped, everybody. Not discounting that part. But how did you get to point A? How did that, either through a narrative manipulation to get people to consent to it? That is part of the mind control, even before the tech and the magic of it, the propaganda of it. Or post creation of the binary network, they hit a button. It's kind of the same difference, but faster. So this is essentially what I know on that. But this is where I'm at. Any other question?
No, I just, again, for the
No,
audience that's listening to this, for me, it's just any last words. But April?
none from me.
I know you also thought this was a bit about Charles, but Charles brought the two of us in,
Yeah,
so
there's a reason for it. So yeah.
yeah. So like I said, we met over there. We didn't actually meet on Earth.
Mhm.
You guys call it Midgard, but that's the dimensional name for it. But yeah, we met over there. There was another case he's bringing up in his head where, yes, there was a woman that lost her son, and then the psychic that was, I believe it was James von Prague, was picking up on that there was another person by a different name, but it was the son of somebody else he had just read, and those two sons had met up over here. That's the same as with us. So we were in three completely different parts of the world and programs,
Mhm.
but over in spirit, different story. So
Yeah.
there's many layers to spirit. So We just literally almost like we ran into one another and said, "Hey, hello." We're like, "What'd you do here?" Like veterans, like Vietnam veterans, may run into each other. One could have been the deep jungles, and one could have been in Da Nang and all of that other those places.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they always compare stories. That's what we did.
I
So
see. I've always known though that I was supposed to bring this out. I've had that feeling for a long time, and I know it's probably true.
yeah, there will be a part two to this. Let's just say.
I was thinking that a few minutes ago. I was like, "There's going to be a part two to this, isn't there?"
Eventually, you get a hold of the journal and all these other things. You will start to see, and you will discover more. There will be a part two of this. So,
Okay, yeah, that was my next question. I'd forgot to ask you was if I'm going to get a hold of that journal, am I going to be able to read it?
well, yeah, he put things in a little bit of shorthand, but there are other things in there. No, Isaac, it is not like the Indiana Jones journal with little images and crap like that. No, it's not like the Uncharted type of mentality. No, trying to make it like this big quest. No, no, it's not like that. It's actually in plain English, some in other language, some in a little bit of shorthand, and that's pretty much it. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's not this like mighty quest where you're putting all these little pieces together and all this. No, it's not like Indiana Jones. No, 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 no.
Will it tell us anything? Will it tell us anything?
Yes, you will see a lot of entries he referred to when he was in service. Admiral Byrd did the same.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote down things before he could publish them, but he also published the propaganda as well. So what you will see is minus the propaganda. Uh,
Right. Okay.
he only published the other because that's what he was ordered to do. Admiral Byrd did.
Yeah.
But he couldn't for the same reasons that we've all mentioned today. He could not talk about it then.
Mm-hmm.
But in written form and in a closet somewhere, different story. So
Yeah.
you'll find this because you are not bound by the same classified top secret rules he was with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay.
that's what I can say on that. So, any other questions or comments?
No, just any last words from you?
Okay. But just know anybody that is glorifying some of this. Yes, oh yeah, the information needs to come out. Absolutely. Any of the beings you talk to. Absolutely.
Okay.
Any of this. Anybody listening, anybody involved, April, you guys, everything.
Mm-hmm.
This does need to come out, and it's a natural progression that it do so. And this is something that cannot be energetically fought by any of these other forces. So this eventually does make its way out. It may not be to the timing that some people like, but especially with torturous things going on mentally and energetically and physically. But this also, he came across one thing. He came across something this morning of another psychic saying that, oh, there you in this 3D realm you have limitations. And that, yes, the manifesting can only take it so far. And another twit that was on there decided to comment, "No, you're infinite. You have all these non-limit. You have no limitations or anything." That's true of spirit where we are. In your physical form, you can take the manifestation to a certain extent. Yes, you can change even your body, even the energy around you, everything. But it was still conform to the physics in which you were living here currently. There's no, even if people have a big energy around them and have they glow for crying out loud, or those were some of the ETs or ET humans had the crystalline DNA and all this other stuff. You're seeing not only also mutant powers like X-Men and all this other stuff kind of thing coming in, but and also the alien DNA, but you are still living with the physics that you're in. He likes to say like the ships that cross through or the beings that cross through from a different dimension conform to the physics when they come in, like in your Farscape where Crichton's father or this alien takes the form of Crichton's father. And he comes in from his or not non-corporeal form, but his dimensional state comes into ours, and he looks like a Muppet, Henson. But at the same time, he then shapeshifts into Crichton's father and saying, "You prefer this form," kind of like the Alien in Contact kind of deal with Jodie Foster. But in this, he passed from one set of physics to another. It's the same with the manifestation abilities. They may take a form you don't recognize because they're coming from spirit. They're coming from the soul. They take a form you don't recognize. Just like what the person that was at the psychic fair of the mother that passed away. everybody was thinking she wasn't around, it's because she'd become so immense in her energy that they didn't recognize the form. It's like he likes to compare it to the person walking through the woods looking for a giant, sits down on a big giant's toe, looking around for the giant, and the giant's right there. This is us. We're the giants, so to speak. Not in a physical sense, Isaac Shush. But those are giants in Antarctica too. I know the reference. They recently unearthed several things there that had to do with ancient Atlantis and such, that could be gotten into in part two, and that's what the forest people were talking about, is the giants down there. And Charles saw a couple of things underground there of that nature, of just sleeping.
Yeah,
But
that's another thing we'll talk about later. Yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, and he did see all that. That's basically what he saw. He saw them in the coffins, and that's pretty much it.
Also, what about the observers? Albert said something about he wanted me to mention to you observers. He said just mention observers and see what he says.
Observers.
Yep.
Uh,
Watching.
oh yes, the watchers essentially. Yes. This I will say. There are people around you, agents also, Valiant Thor's people as well. They are essentially the Watchers. They depicted them in your Gary Seven narrative in Star Trek, where they changed things little by little in the background. It's the Venusian colonies. There are observers that do this. There are
Mhm.
also remote viewers that are observers as well. So there's a few different things going on here, but the Watcher types are Venusian colonies and a couple other ET derivatives and dimensional ETs that are around, that walk around you constantly. They're all over the place. They're literally in every city. So, and coming and going. I shouldn't say at any given time. They've been to several. They're not like all around you and spooky. No, it's more like walking amongst you. That would be the observers right there.
Yeah, he said something about something would happen and then they would be gone. He would observe. You said you'd observe them and they would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Yes.
Wait, okay,
Yes.
hold on.
That's a remote viewing session. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and some of these watchers will do the same. They watch and they leave. So they're not all bad and spooky. They might do creepy things like that from time to time, which they probably shouldn't. But it's just like he's thinking that's seen in your Star Trek Picard, where the one watcher was watching a private session, like a psychological or psychiatric, session, and Picard objects to it. This is the difference. And then she says, no, I have to learn all this about this person I'm watching and observing. It's the same thing. Some of them will use the excuse, even if you said, hey, this is a private moment, and they're saying, no, I'm assigned, I'm watching. They will say the same kind of dynamics. They sometimes don't know what personal boundaries are. Let's just put it that way.
Mhm.
You can keep them out. You can actually, if you say it enough times to the good ones, they will knock it off. But it's a little creep. They go into creepy territory sometimes. What would you do if you could just look at somebody? Uh, but there are bad ones that do it regardless of what you want, and then you have to slap them around. But
Mhm.
but this is essentially what is meant by that.
Okay.
All right. So if there's no further questions, I can take this out then.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for having all three of us on, apparently. I know you guys weren't expecting this, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, all right. But yeah, that I could definitely tell Hubert was the one that was leaning the most, though. Yeah, he was like, so Charles kind of got booted out there for a minute. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, your grandfather was the one that was just, you know, so
Okay.
Charles was like, okay, he's staring at me. I have to move. But so yeah, that's basically how it is. And then my grandfather just kind of stood there and waited. So and then was like, no, okay, it's my turn. Okay, yeah, Hubert, shut up. Okay, that but yeah, they all are kind of traveling together. So it looks like and yeah, Charles, I threw in
Yeah.
my thing about the giants and stuff like that was seen down way deep into that hole. It was from the Atlantean period, and it was in like a lower level of the structure. That was
Yeah.
it. This old ruin that was right, where the Atlantean Tower used to be, where the sinkhole collapsed, and they were down into this little area, is what it was. What he was showing me.
But who like in Agartha now? Since it's like not, is it like Nazi taking over the area?
Only in the Antarctic area. I think most of it's vacant with different pockets of different beings in different areas. It's not like this united thing that people think that it is. That we always used to say a Garthan network. That was true a long time ago, but we were getting shades of the past when we were looking into stuff like that. It's more like in areas that are mostly vacant, that were ancient, they're unoccupied ancient structures that are there. That's what the forest people said. Yeah, a lot of these military groups and Sasquatch and cat people, dog people, lizards, reptilians, they travel through a lot of these old areas, but there's pockets where beings still are. But
Yeah.
In pockets, plenty of pockets that the military.
and the military have broken into and taken over some of it. Yeah, so it's not just Nazi. They have Antarctica. That's pretty much the extent of their reach there. But they decided to take an even bigger ancient one, and that's Mars. So so that's basically what was being said. So
Okay. Yeah, it was different how he got like what you said originally a long time ago, because you were being lied to about that a long time ago. My very first session, we talked about him. And of course what they told you was not true. So
yeah, it was dark elves that were trying to usurp the conversation at the time. It was done by a family of them that stretched all the way back to the ancient Grecian period and Diluvian League period. I found out was that.
wow.
So and they're long gone at the moment. They have some cousins that were around, but yeah, they were trying to block him from actually telling his actual story. And the actual story, I'm being told, the actual story isn't usually as epic as some of the liars will tell you it is. It's actually more traumatic and sometimes even boring in some areas, but it's a little both from all of them. But yeah, that's essentially kind of what they wanted everybody to take away from that. But I think we can close the circle unless you want to talk about another aspect of this.
No, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, all right. Joanna?
No,
Okay.
well, I think hopefully people really enjoyed this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I thank you everybody for watching this episode of The Lifting. You're going to see a lot more material like this in the not too distant future on the YouTube and the Rumble. All links are below in the descriptor. So I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. So thank you everybody. Bye-bye now. All right, there we go.
Okay.
God, my left eye started to burn there for a minute, but it was like, yeah, Hubert was sad. So
Because, you have how you think your life's going to be, and then this comes in and really fucks it up. I mean, what can I say?
yeah, Hubert was.
Can you imagine what they experienced? Could you imagine living that and knowing what you've done? And you're not going to forget it. You're going to know it. That's scary.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That whole generation, the number of alcoholics, you know what I mean? And keep a secret or die or will kill your family. And you're thinking that you're doing everything, to protect, and you haven't protected anything. You know what I mean? And, I get it, because even myself, sometimes I've thought, well, maybe I shouldn't, with my own children, should I be more distant from them? Can I protect them and not? And then the other part of me is like, you were brought into this as a baby. What do you mean? You know what I mean? It's, could you protect, and so.
He was trying to tell me they were looking at too, but it was like,
of course, they do the lines.
Yeah.
And, like I said, whether knowingly or not, most everyone's looked at.
Mhm.
So, it's just again, a sad story, of a situation that, I pray most people have no memory of. I mean, I really do. It's one of those things that you're like, you can handle it over in spirit. You know what I mean? See it.
Yeah.
Most people do it subconsciously too. Like a friend of mine, he'll do things on a subconscious level to correct certain things, but he don't remember beans about any of it. So it's like, it's on an emotional level. It's not on an actual remembering events level. So,
right. But my whole thing is that I just think however they come out with their story to introduce all of this, And it's going to be a huge infrastructure that
Yeah,
maybe
more and more will come out.
maybe more people will say, and how was that infrastructure really built? You see what I mean? As
Mhm.
far as, the tale that's going to be told versus the true reality of it,
Yeah.
because the reality of it isn't pretty. But they're going to try to spin their tail as, and everything. And, we'll just have to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
The question I had is because every time, and I questioned it, you know, but at the time when it wasn't happening, I mean, when it was happening, I just blew it off. So it was in combat, but it was, you know what I mean? It was like, that was weird. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like you see something and you think like, that was weird. Whatever. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it just happened like like a few times.
Was it the
And
same person observing?
they always looked different, but I couldn't see their face.
Yeah, that basically what my grandfather was saying. It was like remote viewing and other races kind of like bilocating and looking in on you is what he was saying. So yeah.
Yeah, but it was like whatever region we're in or whatever, you know what I mean? Like their clothing, it
Mhm.
matched around them.
Yeah, some of
But
them will make themselves look like the regional ones as well. And also there's other regional groups as well that are they're not spirit, they're some of them are ET, some of them are military groups that are in a different frequency and they'll observe as well, I've noticed. So so I'm thinking that's involved too. And
yeah,
also spirit as well. So you have that too.
the ones that I saw, it was like their faces were. It's weird. It was like it was just a haze. I could
That
see
can be the
them.
frequency too. And also, like sometimes if you're looking at something that your brain has never seen before, it will be all fucked up looking, and then you blink a few times and you'll see it. You'll see it
Yeah,
right. Hmm?
yeah. That's what I was telling April. Like, I said you need to. I told her the other night. I was like, you need to pay attention. Like, those things that you see at the corner of your eye.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
All
And
the
it's
time.
blurry, and you look and it's not there. I told her like you need to pay attention to those things because it's not like, oh, dirt in your eye or something in my eye or I just saw something, because every time that I see something, it's out of the corner of your eye and you look, and the more and more that you notice them, you start actually seeing them.
Yeah, your
You know what
brain
I mean?
starts to decode it correctly or encode it correctly, and then you start actually seeing it more. Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that. Like, well, there'll be things that run around the corners sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm walking through a hall, I'll see and somebody run around a corner or something like
And
that.
and everybody blows it off,
They're
and
everywhere. It's all over the place. So
it
yeah.
happens too much. It like with me, like I was telling her, in certain buildings that I've been in, I see something that's a blur at first. You know what I mean? Then I start questioning because it's the same spot, same area, same hallway, whatever. And then after a little while, I start seeing an actual, you know what I mean? Actually seeing a person, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And there's been a few times where that person, and I explain it to everybody, because there's nobody supposed to be in the building at a certain time. And I explain it to them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." And then I've had them bring me to a spot, and they show me a picture of a person that's been dead for like 15 years or 20 years,
Hmm.
and then and the clothing, everything, same exact person.
Oh yeah, those are ghosts and spirit too that you're seeing. Yeah, I like sometimes I'll see things directly like face on most of the time. It's just that's how I'm wired. But
Hmm.
where I literally will see it with my eyes if somebody comes up behind somebody else. Sometimes you're actually seeing them in public and
Hmm.
you don't know because if it's a crowd of people or something, you don't really know, what is ghost and what is regular human sometimes as well. You're seeing a full body as well, and you just
I
don't
have,
know. Yeah. Hmm.
see, I have this thing where I don't know what it is, but I guess it's like the combat part of me or whatever. But whenever I go anywhere, you can ask April, I'm always looking at everybody. I look at everybody. I scan the whole crowd. And then every once in a while, when something's going on, or you know what I mean, something that's going on that is out of place, I'll look around, and there's always like somebody just, you know what I mean. It's weird because it's like they're not looking at what's going on; they're looking straight at you. They're like
Hmm.
locking eyes
They're
with
doing the
you,
same thing you are.
and they're looking right at you. but it's like it's weird because everything gets kind of blurred for a minute, but they're
Mhm.
clear.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
telepathic contact is what they're doing. I'm thinking you're either getting somebody that's channeling through them looking at you, or it is an actual ET that you've discovered too, so that they're scanning you like what I do. So yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
the ones that were weird to me are the ones that I look at, they lock eyes with me, and then I go to look around what's going on, look, and they're gone. And then the
Hmm.
other ones I'll look at and they'll lock eyes with me, and they're doing the same thing I'm doing, looking around for bad stuff or whatever. And they'll look at me and they'll acknowledge me by blinking their eyes or nodding their head.
Yep, yep. I run
And,
into
and
that
then
too. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the ones that I seen, like I said, the ones that I seen that look like observers, it was always right before something catastrophic was going to happen. And then I'd be moving and I'd have this weird feeling and I'd look and there's a person there, and but I can't see their face, but I can see their body and everything clear as day. But they're always by themselves at a high point where they can see everything.
Hmm.
And then I get this weird feeling and I tell everybody to stop the patrol. And then I start looking at everything and it's really scanning, you know what I mean? Then I'd find stuff, or like a firefight would break out or an explosion would happen, and you would look and that person's not there. And it's
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
watcher, and some of them are bad that cause the fights, and other ones are like the good guys watching over an area too. So it's a mix of both. You're getting good and bad and all in between. From that, I remember seeing, and when we were in Prescott Valley, I remember seeing this really black, like motion blur come up, like solid, like black, just past, like right next to my hip here, like really close to where you can feel it touch. And I found out my brain wasn't registering that that was a gray alien. So it was like I blinked a couple times. I'm thinking, okay, what are you? And my brain finally registered that it was a gray, and it got its ass whooped out of there. But what you were discovering were those were basically watchers. You call them observers, but yeah, where they'll either cause fights, some they'll cause fights, and then some will actually try to stop it. So yeah,
the ones that I seen that were just watching, like right before something was happening, it's like they knew that something was going to happen. They wanted to see the outcome.
yeah,
And
they wanted to observe what was happening. Yeah, to see what either it's a bad guy trying to set something in motion, or it's a good guy that maybe have made it less worse than it actually was. Some things can't be completely averted, but then you also have some that battle in the background and will. You'll get the outer edge of what happens there too. You'll see like a fight that's happening from other parties that you're not seeing, that it happens over here, kind of mirrors.
I and when the ones that were watching, they're always wearing, like, it was really weird. It was like the clothing that they were wearing was like, it was always like a white looking, you know what I mean? So they kind of stood out, but it reminded me, I was telling April, I was like, they look like Jesus clothes, you know, the old clothes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it was modern looking, but it looked old. And it was
yeah.
like
It was,
Jesus
yeah. Some of them look like that. Some of them look like saintly figures. Yeah, I've run into that. Some of the underground groups are that way too, where they're in robes like that, or in the Bedouin type of clothing. It's like that. I've run into that multiple times, like desert dweller looking ones as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
and last thing, I know you guys got to go, but the last thing I want to mention is I've had this, and I've told April about it, where it's like a dream or whatever, okay? But you're in the mountains. It's like above the clouds, whatever, and it's a big, you know, like a, I don't know, it's like another land or whatever, but it's like a whole city up there, right? And there's people wearing those types of robes, and I'm with them, and they have children with them, and I was there, and you're teaching them how to fly.
That's
Yeah, I
mountain
remember
mystical.
saying that. Yeah, that was a different timeline. I even came across a being that she said you spoke to the guy that had the white head. I believe she was.
Yes.
I came
Yeah.
in contact with him, and he's actually in a time frame that's in a. Our friend Ron has another one by the name of Braun that's over in this area where they're observing as well. This is in a different time frame or a different dimensional place, and where where this guy that had the white head was talking. You found out his name's Fossen, and he's actually like a turtle type of person, and he is a like he recognized you immediately and basically said, "Yeah, I'm the one that he talks to." So
I was young at the time. I was
yeah,
real little. He's
yeah.
the one who showed me where to go.
People smell like cheese, he says. You told me that.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Fossum basically says everybody smells like cheese. Yeah. Because where they are, they're in a place where there's other aliens, but they're in like a not a council chambers, but they're in a place where they can pre-plan what dimension they're going to be in or what time frame they're going to be in or what they're going. Yeah. So I came to find them, and when I locked into his frequency, it took me way off the dimensional mark, and I found him where he was. So he said he'll come through at some point on some show at some point. But our friend Ron in Canada, his was Bron. His was a member of his soul group. But Boston, I'm thinking is like Soul Family member. He just looks alien looking, but yeah, I think he took credit for like helping you in like combat situations and all that other stuff. So it was like,
Well, he's one. Okay.
might have been
Yeah.
because, and last thing I know, but I was telling April about dragons, right?
Oh yeah.
And the reason why I mentioned dragons, how everybody like, oh, dragons are fake, stuff like that, right?
mhm,
So we, I used to have these things. I don't know if they're dreams or whatever, where there's a dragon, right? But it's not a good one. It's tracking us down. Like the people that were in the clouds that's what I call them, people in clouds. But
mhm,
the people in the clouds, anytime you try to use an ability or if you didn't talk and you used your mind, because
mhm.
that's what they did, they would communicate like that, talking in their heads.
Yeah,
And anytime you used anything like that, this dragon would find you and it would devour
back
people.
telepathic. You can
Yeah,
tap
it
you.
would devour people. And whenever we knew it was close, we would it'd feel like a pulse in your body, and it was scary. You could feel when it was coming to get you because it had a pulse, and you would feel this pulsing in your body and this dread, and it was like a heartbeat. But you would also see, only certain people could see it though. When he was near, you could see when him coming because he every time that pulse would happen, there'd be like a red glow, and it was like letting you know, like certain people, like he's over here. And
Okay.
that's all he did. He would go around like just trying to find people like that were using like their abilities, and it was scary. I'll be honest with you, I was scared.
Is there
Yeah,
dragons?
also, if you look into the Dungeons and Dragons material, they actually say something similar about a dragon that would usurp people's powers and stuff like that. So, my friend Ryan and I did a show on Dungeons and Dragons about the different dragon types and what the different colors and stuff meant and all this other stuff. And they matched a lot of stuff I was already seeing. And I'd never played Dungeons and Dragons, so ironically enough, so I didn't know what the lore was. And so he fervently played it. So he was tell me all the lore and everything from it. And I would mention certain dragon types, and he's like, "Yeah, this is in this storyline. This is in this storyline. This is in." He would rattle it off like a savant, And so yeah, this is that fits a lot of the stuff from that extreme ancient like wartime, pretty much, or the ancient period. Uh,
Sorry.
Just
uh,
like I was just curious because I noticed like as the years have gone by, there's more and more things I'm starting to see.
It's
Like
probably because it's coming out more and everybody's starting
yeah,
to.
the energy's revving up a lot. So yeah.
Yeah,
did April tell you about the stuff we've been seeing here? Like
I haven't. He has. I don't see crap.
okay, because the whole drone crap,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I told him.
Drone
I
crap,
told him
right?
the other day.
A
And
lot of stuff. Yeah.
but I've seen those things. You can call them drones, whatever. But then I also see something else, and it's usually like this round. It's like it's real shiny though, and it's like a ball of light,
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's real
people are
shiny in the
saying that.
middle, and
Hmm.
then there's a round haze. And when you see these drones, they're off in the distance, and then there's this thing just sitting there. It's not moving. It's just sitting there. I don't care what anybody says. It's not a plane. I'm not stupid.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
alien.
so
That's an alien one. That's basically their version of a drone, but that's an alien one there. Yeah.
yeah, and I told April, I was like, we were coming home. Remember that day?
Hmm.
I was like, April, there's something in the sky. She's like, oh, I see it. I was like, no, over there,
It was
right there,
it was in the
right there.
daytime. Yeah.
And it's during the day, and then for it to be that big, I was like, it dwarfs everything else. And then you could see jets flying, and I was like, it's bigger than those, and it was really weird. And then it was gone.
It was
Yeah,
in the
many
direction of
people,
Fort
huh?
Campbell.
It was in the direction of the military
Yeah.
base.
Oh yeah,
Somewhere
yeah. And what ended up happening? Some of it's AI, some of it is alien, some of it's military. And what these other regular drones are trying to block people seeing the other one. So they're basically trying to distract with the other one, so people aren't seeing those points of light. So yeah.
The thing that's weird is like I'll see it, right, and I'll point to people like, hey, look, blah 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 blah,
it'll disappear, won't
and
it?
then they'll be like, I don't see it, and I'm like, it's right there, and I'm pointing and I'm pointing and I'm
So you
pointing,
got the vision
and
to
then they're
see
like,
it.
I don't see it, and then and I'm like,
You just can see into more frequencies than most
You're
people.
seeing in more frequency layers,
You
yeah.
know, it's
yeah,
just like, you know,
I
there were
don't get
times
it.
that we were driving around looking at a pole going, is there something on top of it? You know what I mean? Like we were
Yeah,
seeing some of the dimensional control mechanisms being put onto poles and towers, and it's like,
And somebody
am I
zoomed
really
in.
seeing that or not
And
seeing
somebody
that?
recently got a picture of one of these, and they zoomed in on it like really close, and they saw these little wheels within wheels, kind of like
Oh,
operating, like spinning, and that's very similar to like one of the spaceships in Star Trek, one of the Orion spaceships in Star Trek, where it was like the wheels and wheels, and it's like an orb type of deal. It's
oh
like
yeah,
it's very similar. So Roddenberry had that kind of design
So
correct.
what we
So
were told kind of is that 80+% of it is our own, period, end of statement.
and then
It's
you
our
have
own
these others,
military,
yeah. Then you have
but part of it is why they're not saying anything is there is a, let's say they're studying us to see how we react to it. There's a purpose behind them seeing how are people going to react to this. But there is a small subset of it where the only way there's interest, of course, by benevolent ETs and different ones to help regular Earth people understand what's going on, that it's way bigger than what it appears. They can't get through the blockade, but they can portal jump in to do something really quick and leave. So there's been an although it's still a small quantity, there is an uptick in that. So there's an uptick in something trying to let itself be seen. Although again, it's a very small subset of the total of what people are seeing. So then you have the military like, well, you know, what are we going to do? Let's, you know, get the company drone up, or get these companies, get their stuff up in the air. Let's practice all of our stuff now so that we can cover it up. But then we can also see how it is the humans react to the fact of this strange stuff flowing around. So it's kind of sometimes these, let's just say, moments of trying to disclose are then there's always a plan ready of how are we going to take credit for it, cover it up, use it to do a study and see where, you know
I
what,
also
I'm
think they're
saying?
trying to normalize everything. They're trying to get people. The way I feel about it is they're trying to normalize weird things that we don't
Correct.
agree to.
Correct.
yeah.
So that they can enhance surveillance and do whatever it is
Like
that they're
normalize
doing.
all of that.
I
Yeah.
think, you know, one of the interesting things that when Chris and I had you know, that issue in Nightdale where the military paid us a visit, and I woke up and I was telling you they were looking through the walls with their binoculars
Yeah.
to see where we were. That, you know, I'm sure some of this technology going around is the exact same things where they look straight through walls, they can see exactly. It's probably being enhanced in a sense of frequencies and psionic capabilities, like being able to figure out really who's doing what on the ground, where are they at, you know, to know who to whack-a-mole. Let's just say that's how I say it. So I'm sure there's all this tech that's out there, again, all with the same purpose of, you know, more of how do we keep all of this under control and keep people under control in a sense. But some of it is initially generated by something benevolent trying to quickly porter through, let themselves be seen and get out of there. so that they don't get in trouble. Because the one thing is that they're not going to, even benevolence knows kind of what's going, everyone knows what's kind of going on here, knows that Earth is being guarded by its own folks now, and, their attitudes towards saying, so, and no one wants to provoke a galactic war. No one wants to. They're smarter than that. So they may try to sneakily do something with letting themselves be seen. The plans are there to try and cover it up always. And then God forbid, good galactic sent a ship in and said, go ahead and try it. But they will not defend themselves. It's like if up above really, what I mean, says, we're going to go after that ship, we got you or whatever. They're not going to put up a fight. So it's not like good galactics coming in that are coming in with guns ablazing. We're going to prove our point now. It's not like that. It's more of, we're going to try and risk and take an opportunity to get in, porter in and out, jump through their defenses, and oops, I didn't realize I was seen, or however that's still going on. And then you have the military and the powers that are be have their multitude of plans in place to start to utilize if they need a cover up for it. Yeah. And then again, what now will humanity allow? How well have we dumbed humanity down that they're willing to accept this story or that story, or however we play it out. So all of that's in play right now. What
I think more than anything is that the generations that are coming now, they're actually, and I'm not trying to be mean, but they are dumbed down. They believe anything, because I work in, okay, that's Vanderbilt's area, okay? Mm-hmm. And they believe anything that Vanderbilt puts out, anything, and they believe a certain way no matter what. I'm talking like diehard, and they will fight you if you disagree with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking like college students. There's doctors that it's crazy. But last thing, I saw on my way home, I saw something that looked like, I don't know what it was, but it was actually shaped like a crescent. Mm-hmm. It was like a crescent, but it glowed real bright on the front end, and on the inside it was darker. Mm. And it happened. Remember when I told you when I was on my way home? I don't know how this happened, because it's basically 5 lanes, big road. A car went from the far lane going about 60 from very far in the opposite lane, and another car in our lane on the far end. They hit head on in the shoulder on my side.
I can think if somebody's driving the wrong way.
Whenever I was sitting there, because it just happened, I don't know, because all I could see was it was really bad.
Something came in to cause that chaos.
Yeah, something came in to cause the accident. Sometimes it'll be a being standing on a corner just pointing. I've seen that.
That's when I saw that crescent thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We were sitting there. You know how you can't move because it was like all over the place, and one of the cars kind of caught on fire, and you know how you're sitting there and waiting because everybody's out like looking, and of course you got those people that are like looking in there with phones. It just happened. There was no police, no nothing. And I was sitting there like this, just waiting, because I was like, man, I want to get home. That's going to take me like a couple hours to get home. And then I'm looking around and I see that thing.
It had to have caused it.
And at the same time, I was telling April, I was like, through the sky, it looked like a grid. There were so many lines in the sky. It looked like X's everywhere, but they actually intersected. All of them did. Mm-hmm. And then there was that thing, and it was like right above.
Yeah, that was somebody trying to cause the chaos and the problems in the traffic is what it was. That sounds more like alien at that point, or dimensional type of craft to me. When we were in Prescott Valley, I literally saw a man walking on a street that I thought it was like he was in like this Merlin like getup, and he had the robe, the whole thing, like what we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. And he had his eyes covered, kind of like the Emperor in Star Wars, right? The eyes covered with the hood. Yeah. And I saw him pointing at traffic, and he was like doing this. And he almost caused a car wreck, and I reached out with mine and cut his head off, and he disappeared. And then the traffic went back to normal. And if you see any beings doing that, if they have a form like a person, just lob their head off in your head. Just cut their head off. And it'll restore the situation to a normal state after that. But I try to unwrite them, try to undo things. When I see stuff like that, I just try to undo what they're doing. But but that was a dimensional type of craft, or somebody that was doing the same thing but in a ship of some kind.
It's weird to me because it's like everybody's so involved in pardon my language, but bullshit, right? That nobody basically people are walking around with their heads down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
they're
then
yeah.
I'm walking. It feels like I'm walking around with my head up, looking around, and everybody's just like they're just like in a zone or something, right? It's
We
like
call it the dumbing because it's called psionic dampening in reality, where their being that's technology is dampening. But I nicknamed it the dumbing because it's because I see that constantly where people are like, "What? Huh?"
It's also a sign of extreme stress. So it's like, I'm looking down because I cannot engage in one more thing. I cannot, you know what I mean? So keeping people so stressed out, you have a tendency to want, in a sense, a way to hide from it all, and people will tend to just keep their head down so they don't engage.
yeah, and that's the thing. Nobody's communicating.
Right. It's
You know,
literally
I've seen we had a girl who was like with her head down, walking around, and she got hit by a car, walked out in the street. And another girl was on her phone on a scooter, okay, looking at the phone, ran into a rig, okay, and it ran her over because she went under it.
Oh God.
I watched a woman, it was on video. I watched a woman, she was on her phone, and she's just sitting there walking. She had like beats on too. She's sitting there walking, and there's this low concrete overhang. It's painted yellow. She's walking pretty quick. She hits her head, right? She flies back. She gets up, and she gets under another pillar that's low, and knocks herself completely out.
Oh my God.
Right? And then she tried to blame our building, right, that I work at, and and tried to say you guys need to do something. I'm like, what are we gonna do? Tear down a concrete pillar so you don't get hurt? You know what I mean? And they're like, it's not right. The design. I was like, why don't you take it up with Vanderbilt? They're the ones that came up with design that got built.
Yeah.
But but it's just crazy. Everybody that I see, everybody's always fighting because like nobody communicates. But as soon as they disagree with something, they want to fight. And even people that don't even have a stake in a discussion two people are having, they'll come over there and just start something.
right.
And it just I don't get it. It's like everybody's
Well, it's the energies being beamed at them. So part of those energies, again, I call it the chaos. The chaos energies are to, whether you have a reason or not, how can the frequencies stress you out to a point that you can't handle one more thing? It's literally the energy is beaming. And so the energy is coming towards you, right? That a hangnail becomes the worst thing and I'm going to kill somebody over it, right? But you want to think, well, aren't you stupid to be thinking of a hangnail like that? But really what's happening is the psionics being aimed at people is stressing their energy fields to the point where people can't handle anything anymore. But it causes a stupiding, to be stupid, but you have to understand not everyone, it's not equal across the board how well you handle these energies that are streaming at every single person. So, that are causing people not to be able to handle anything, right? And to do these types of things. So it's an unseen force, energy that is causing, quite a bit of this that's going on that doesn't make sense to those people who can understand it, see through it. Do you see what I mean? It wouldn't make sense because you're like, you have no common sense, you have no logic. And I'm like, that's exactly what then, the bad guys are like, hooray, we've sent energies that screw people's energy so much they have no logic and they have no common sense anymore. That was the goal.
That's what I've been noticing. Like, and the minute I've actually tried to help people like explain certain things to them because, and I'm talking like everyday life stuff, like simple things you should know how to do. And they're
Hmm.
like,
Right.
no, you do it like this. And I'm like, I'm explaining it. And you wouldn't believe some of the stupidest things that I'm showing people. You know what I mean? Like
He's
how a door opens,
he has dealt with
right?
that the same thing. He
I,
explained it on a show.
well, the other day I was sitting there and they're like, "Our door is broken. You guys need," because I work in the engineering department. They're like, "You need to fix it," and I was like, "No, I don't." I was like, "I don't need to fix it. That's in your suite." I was like, "You guys had it modeled." I was like, and instead of, I was like, I would fix what was broken, okay, if you didn't hire another vendor to do it, and then they did it wrong. You need to contact that vendor. You paid them. It was so stupid. They paid $5,000 just to install a door.
Jesus.
You put the door in, you put the pins in. That's it. And now, but it's Vanderbilt, right? So I was like, you need it. And they put the door on freaking backwards, right? So it locks from the outside. I
Jesus.
was like, how? And it's even got a turn knob that you lock on the outside. And I'm sitting there and I'm explaining it to them. There was like, hey, why don't you just take it and just switch the locks? I was like, okay, so that's now how it works. Like you have to cut a door, you have to put the locks in, right? The turn knob is just a little turn knob for the bolt to go through. I was like,
Jesus.
but the lock where it locks are two separate things. I was like, on the outside, everything's down here. I was like, in the inside of your office, everything's up here. I was like, there's going to be two big holes if we cut it. Well, why don't you just switch it around? I was like, they're offset. We have to cut another hole, cut another hole. And I was sitting there, I was like, I was trying to explain. I had to draw a picture, and they still didn't freaking get it. And
Yeah.
I was like, this guy is a doctor. He has a
There's a lot
Yeah,
of
PhD.
I
genius
would.
doctors in
Yeah, and
Vanderbilt.
also my friend Chris, he works in computers. He said he would talk to doctors and nurses, and they didn't know what a mouse and a computer a monitor was or anything like that. And I was like, I'm actually scared to have those people work on me. My mother has a phrase for this. She says, "The wheel is turning, but the hamster's dead." But
Had another guy. He has he's well known. Okay, he's I'm not going to say who he is, but he's a doctor. He does research, right? And he was doing all the research on the when COVID started happening, right? And
Mhm.
then there was one floor, and I was telling April about it. There was actually a floor up there with beds, right? When COVID was happening, all these homeless people were coming in, meeting with these people, going up to that floor with the beds, coming back down, and then they'd have where they had shots or whatever, taped on them and stuff, and they would pay them. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have not seen them since.
And he knows the
None of them.
faces because he's banned a
And I
lot of
know
them from the
them because I've
building.
banned a lot of them from the property. And but that guy, weirdest thing, we got this, like, it was an emergency, right? I'm being bombarded by wasp in my office. And I'm like, he's on the 15th freaking floor. How in a high rise do wasp get into your office, right? So he was like, I've been dealing with it. You should have, if you could have read the email, you've been flipping out. You were like, what? I've been dealing with it for 2 weeks. I have to crouch down in my chair. I was like, are you kidding? And then he tried to
Yeah.
claim that that he said he put it in all this and that, right? So I was like, no, I pulled everything up. I was like, this is the first time he's done this, like told us about it. So I go up there. He is on a phone call, right? A headset, got all these big things with other doctors, and he's typing like this. I'm not kidding you, but I am not kidding you. It was like 20 feet away where the wasp was in that big glass window, and it
Mhm.
was like dying. You know what I mean? Like it was like
If you've been
like
here a
moving real
week, I'm
slow.
sure it's going to be
I
good.
walked in there. I went to his garbage. There's some papers in there. I rolled it up like this, and I went, "Pah!" And I grabbed it and I threw it, and it was so weird. I was like, "What is going on?" I was
It's
like,
just
"What
they're
is
idiots.
Malik?"
That's all.
I was like,
Yeah, they're
I was like,
stupid,
"Man, he's got kids. Does he get his wife and kids to kill a bug for him?"
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's stupid. I come up with this too. I always, I get so frustrated is, I got people, sending me session requests and stuff like that, and they'll go, okay, how do I pay you? How do I do all this? Well, then they're emailing me. Bear in mind, they're emailing me from our website, the actual interface we have on the website, and they're asking me where the website is. So it's
I've
like,
had that kind of crap happen too.
yeah. So, and I was like, what? I give them the benefit of the doubt. I said, I tried to act like as if they were smart. I'll go, okay, all right, what are you looking at it on? What are you, how are you typing this in? And I looked to see if maybe something went wrong with the site. I checked every which way. No, they're just retarded. So
Yeah.
that's all it is.